Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A motion to approve the Board of Education meeting minutes for May 3rd. Any comments or additions? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have patron comments, and we do have a patron comment tonight. So at every regularly scheduled board meeting, citizens may make a statement or address the board concerning issues pertaining to the Rockwood School District. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. So we do have one tonight. To address the board, complete a blue patron card, which we have. And the board values and appreciates you taking the time to provide your comments. The general practice of the board is not to respond to your comments at this time, except to ask for clarification if needed. If appropriate, the district will provide a written response within a reasonable period of time. Please note that matters related to employee negotiations, legal issues, real estate, personnel, and student matters are reserved for the board discussion during closed session. So we have Mr. Joe Mueller. Joe will come forward. Joe, you can either stand there if you want to sit. Okay, great. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Mueller. I am succeeding Jeannie Braun as the Executive Director of the Fenton Area Chamber of Commerce, and I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself and speak very briefly on the importance of relationships between our educational institutions, their employees, our businesses, and the customers that they serve. I was humbled to be chosen to serve as Executive Director. Our mission is to promote, support, and represent businesses for the betterment of our community and our members. Our footprint includes the Rockwood, Lindbergh, Fox, and Northwest school districts. We all know the integral role schools play in a strong, vibrant economy and community. As our chamber plans for future growth and continued success, our members and the regional business community pledge support and advocate for the Rockwood School District and all of our educational institutions. Almost 27 years ago, my wife Michelle and I debated buying a home here in Fenton. At the time, she worked in the communications office at the Rockwood School District. And as we discerned where to settle down, I argued her press releases on all the outstanding accomplishments, on all the students and teachers were wielding too much influence on our decision. Today, our sons are both graduates of Rockwood Summit, both received the Corey Siebert Memorial Scholarship, and Michelle and I have been continually supporting our sons throughout elementary, middle school, as well as their athletic teams, orchestra, and graduation events here at Rockwood Summit. I share those facts not to boast, but to give one person's perspective of a wonderful journey through our public education system. Earlier this week, the Fenton Area Chamber of Commerce presented scholarships to 4 members of the Rockwood Summit graduating class of 2018. More than $287,000 in college scholarships have been awarded by the Chamber since 1989. This year, we expanded our scholarship outreach beyond the Fenton zip code. We now accept scholarships from any student with a parent who works for a Chamber member. I join our board of directors in looking forward to creating, maintaining, or enhancing our relationships with the leadership of the Rockwood School District. Our chamber is comprised of a diversity of businesses from throughout our region, from a one-person home-based business to a multi-million-dollar organization with hundreds of employees. Our region possesses a strong and unique mosaic of business and industry. Their needs, challenges, and opportunities are very different. However, they are all united in serving their customers, employees, and the community. They are also united in supporting our educational institutions as we nurture a strong, vibrant, and wholesome community. Thank you for the opportunity, President Mondal.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. On a personal note, he's a great guy. So this is Jeannie Braun did a fantastic job, but he's going to do a great job too. So thank you, Joe. At this time, we'll turn it over to Dr. Knost for our superintendent comments.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I see none of our crowd stayed around. We're doing something wrong.
I think we're doing everything right.
Exactly. couple of good things to speak of tonight. 3 of our Rockwood high schools were named to U.S. News and World Report's Best High Schools ranking in Missouri. This year, Eureka High ranked 4th, Lafayette High ranked 6th, and Rockwood Summit ranked 8th, all earning silver awards from the publication. All 4 Rockwood high schools showed high rankings for college readiness, which is measured by the publication through advanced placement participation rates and scores. Congrats to our 4 high schools. And Crestview Middle's Science Bowl team placed 16th at the National Science Bowl Championship last month in Washington, D.C. Teams were tested on a wide range of topics, including biology, chemistry, physics, earth science, space science, and energy. Science teacher Christina Bunyard-Groves said, "These students have worked really hard this year, and I'm extremely proud of their dedication and determination. They amaze me with their science knowledge." And this year, 14 Rockwood schools have earned Promising Practices Awards from Character.org. Each year, the organization recognizes schools and districts from the U.S. and across the globe for their innovative practices in the area of character education. To receive a Promising Practice Award, schools must demonstrate how they put one or more of the 11 principles of character education into action. And I'll just say this, stay tuned. Stay tuned. We have some more news coming. Not tonight, though. Leave you hanging a little bit. I'm sworn to secrecy. And this last week before graduation, many Rockwood High School seniors are putting on their school colors and retracing their Rockwood roots at the middle and elementary schools they attended. Seniors visited their district alma maters, walking down the halls to high fives, hugs, and handshakes. Eureka High Assistant Principal Dan Thoman said, "It spreads a sense of pride, accomplishment, and community. We have all helped shape these graduates through the years," said Thoman. It gives our seniors a chance to recognize and thank the educators and staff who have invested in them. Rockwood cameras captured one of those trips down memory lane, and I think we are prepared to take a peek.
Elementary schools came in today to visit our feeder school for when we first started. It felt like I was just there.
I just remember thinking like, oh, this school is so big, and then we got to middle school. Oh my gosh, it's so big. And now high school wasn't anything, and now we're going to college. It's just surreal.
Very fun to experience that. It's been our practice in my years as superintendent to make sure that we, when the Board of Education hires administrators in closed session, we always like to come out and announce those publicly. I always like to have the honor to do that. So we have a number of those tonight, and we have some of them here with us. So we're going to do some introductions. First of all, this evening the board named our new Lafayette High School Associate Principal, which is Michael Franklin. Dr. Michael Franklin is currently an Assistant Principal at Lindbergh High School. Prior to that, he served as an Assistant Principal at Warrenton High School. He has experience as a language arts teacher in Valley Park, as well as El Camino High in Oceanside, California. He earned a doctorate in educational leadership at Maryville University, Dr. Kinder, and a master's degree in educational administration from Walden University. His bachelor's degree in secondary education is from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. In addition, he has a bachelor's degree in English from Rockhurst University. He replaces Matt Irvin, who recently left the district. And I think we have Dr. Franklin with us. Let's give him a warm welcome. Next, we named the new Stanton Elementary Administrative Intern, which is Mr. Cody Dusenberry. Mr. Dusenberry is currently an administrative intern and substitute with the City of St. Charles School District. He has experience as a fifth grade classroom teacher with St. Charles and with Moberly School Districts. Mr. Dusenberry was a member of the Aspiring Administrator Program while at St. Charles. He earned his master's degree in school administration from Lindenwood University. His bachelor's degree in elementary education is from the University of Missouri. He replaces Mr. Hector Ramirez, who recently left the district. And we also have Mr. Dusenberry here with us tonight. Stand up, Cody. Welcome. And the board also named our new coordinator for social studies, 9 through 12, actually it's social studies K through 12, I believe. We have that written wrong on here. Jordan McGahee. Mr. Jordan McGahee currently is a social studies teacher at Seckman High School, where he has served for the last 8 years. In addition, he has served as an instructional support specialist and summer school teacher in the Fox School District. Mr. McGahee earned a master's degree in social studies, secondary certification, and a bachelor's degree in history from Truman State University. He recently received the prestigious 2017 Milliken Educator Award. He replaces Ms. Katie Neese, who's retiring at the end of the school year. And we also have Mr. McGahee here with us. He's down front. Welcome, Jordan. And we also hired 2 other administrators that I don't believe are with us tonight. If they have popped in, please jump up and tell me, but I don't see them. First, our Fairway Elementary Administrative Intern, Ms. Michelle Fitzsimmons. Ms. Fitzsimmons currently serves as a data analyst with our Rockwood Research Evaluation and Assessment team. This summer, she will be the assistant principal of the Rockwood Summer Academy at Chesterfield Elementary. She has experience as a classroom teacher at Eureka and Gagey Elementary Schools. In addition, she attended the Rockwood Administrative Leadership Development Program in 2011. She earned a master's degree in educational administration from William Woods University, as well as her specialist in educational leadership. Her bachelor's degree in elementary education is from Southeast Missouri State University. She is currently a doctoral candidate in educational leadership at William Woods University. She replaces Ms. Christine Davis, who was recently selected as the new principal of Baldwin Elementary School. Ms. Fitzsimmons is not here, but let's give her a round of applause. And finally, also, I don't believe here this evening, our Center for Creative Learning Administrative Intern tonight was named to Christy Sanderson, Dr. Christy Sanderson, who is currently the academic stretch teacher at LaSalle Springs Middle School. Prior to serving in Rockwood, she was a gifted education specialist in the school district of University City. In addition, she has experience as a classroom teacher in Northwest School District. She earned her doctorate in teacher leadership from Maryville University. Her master's degrees are in gifted education from Drury University and teaching from Webster University. She earned her bachelor's degree in education from Southeast Missouri State University. She replaces Mr. Denny Rhodes, who was recently selected as the Director of Gifted Education for Rockwood. Again, Dr. Sanderson's not here, but let's give her a round of applause to welcome her. And, Mrs. President, that's all I have.
All right. Any other board comments? Any board comments?
I did. I attended the Fairway Kindergarten graduation promotion this week, and it was interesting to see those happy, smiling faces. And I was thinking of reflecting on the 4 graduations we're going to next week, and that in a few years we'll be seeing those same students going through our high schools, and it was just pretty exciting.
And let's add that several of us attended the ILC graduation ceremony today. And, you know, as great as those graduations are next week, the one today was the largest class, correct, that they've ever had. And it's just, it's just a great experience for those kids to be able to graduate. And well done, right? Really nice event. Any other board comments? Okay, moving along, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Dr. Kinder?
Yes. If you look on 811, the gifts, I think they're behind us. 3 gifts tonight, Babler Elementary, PTO, monetary amount of $2,785 for Chromebooks for students to use during instructional time. My grandkids will really be proud of that. Marquette High School gave $10,000 from the Marquette Parent Organization, new tables for the common area after it becomes a straight commons area instead of a step down. That's great. And the last donation is monetary $1,150 from Hardline Contracting, LLC, Chris Davis. Monetary donation to aid in the purchasing of a practice segment timer to be used during all football practice sessions. I wish I knew what that was. That's from Harding Contracting, Chris Davis, owner. We thank them very much. Our totals just keep rising every time we have a board meeting. Thank you.
Anything else? So we have the motion on the floor is to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. So we have we're going to call Paul Northington up next, and he's going to work us through the legal firm presentations. Wherever you want.
Okay. Both work.
Sorry about that.
That would drive me crazy.
Good evening. Tonight we have 2 legal firms here to do a presentation before the Board of Education. And just to give you a little bit of background, our current agreement for legal services expires on June 30th. So earlier this year, Brenda Kirchhofer, our coordinator of purchasing, drafted requests for proposals for legal services for the next 5 years. The requests for proposals were sent out on March 9th, and the proposals are due back to the district on April 8th. Respondents to the proposals were asked to address a number of items, including their firm's qualifications, prior experience working with public school district, prior experience of the specific attorneys that will be working with the district, a scope of services regarding various matters of law, including ADA, special ed, HIPAA, FERPA, family medical leave, sunshine law, workers' comp, the whole broad array of services that are needed for the school district. Professional organizational memberships that they belong to within the state of Missouri, including MSBA, MASSA, and MOASBO. Provide a list of references and a cost fee structure, and also outline the in-service that they will be providing to the district on an annual basis, both to our staff and to our Board of Education. The district received 7 proposals based on the criteria just mentioned, and through the review, we narrowed the list down to the 2 finalists that are here this evening. We asked the 2 finalists this evening to provide a brief presentation to the Board of Education and be available to answer any questions following their presentation. And this evening we have representatives from the law firm, and hope I don't butcher the names, but Shands, Elbert, Giannakis, and Gilgem, and also our current law firm of Lashley and Bear. And presenting first this evening is a legal team from Shands, Elbert, Giannakis, and Gilgem, if you'll come on up. And as they're coming up, we have 4 individuals. We have Robert Usted, Charles Elbert, Tom Durfee, and Aaron Leach.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We're delighted to be here. We are Shands, Elbert, Giannakis, and Gilgem. We're here because we want to be your lawyers. We're here because we are passionate about public education. We thank you for the opportunity. I'm Robert Usted. I've been practicing law with this firm for over 35 years and have been doing school law for all of that time. My particular areas of engagement are normally all of the student matters, anything that has anything to do with the student, also sunshine law matters, and those sometimes pesky constitutional issues, the free speech, the church and state issues. So I'll just hand it off to Tom.
I'm Tom Durfee. I've been practicing with the firm for 17 years. The first assignment I got when I was there was a project for Melville, and have been working on school district matters ever since, and have gone on to expand my representation to working with other educational entities, including some charter schools in the city of St. Louis and Kansas City. So I handle representation, from students to employees to educational or election issues and various matters.
I'm Erin Leach. I've been with the firm since 2014 when I graduated from Mizzou Law School. I assist all the partners on lots of different topics related to school law, but especially I've worked on student issues, and then when, hopefully, not often, when litigation arises, I've helped in those situations as well.
I'm Charles Elbert. I've been with the firm a lot of years, more than 40, and I've been doing school law since about 1979. My primary area is labor and employment. I do commercial litigation as well. I do some real estate, and I do board governance. I had an enormous amount of experience in the school law area, and a lot of experience, even more experience, in general labor and employment matters, which are very similar to those that the school districts face.
We have 17 attorneys. Our offices are in Clayton. Our firm was begun in 1970, and we started representing schools and school districts in 1977. And we have pretty much done everything that there is to do in school law. The only area that we have not been involved in is bond counsel. And but other than that, we've done it. We've seen it. I was taken by the motto there, we do whatever it takes to ensure all students realize their potential. We do whatever it takes to help you, and that's what we want to do. We are a small firm, but we offer big firm capability, big firm experience, but we have got small firm responsiveness. You will get to know us, and we are responsive. One of the things that was specifically asked of us is, how long is it going to take you to respond to us when we call you or email you? And that is generally going to be within a matter of hours, if not minutes. Obviously, there are some circumstances where somebody else needs to be gotten, but we can do that. We help each other. We substitute for each other. We can be found, and we'll respond to your calls. We are cost effective. We really pride ourselves in our cost effectiveness. We do not put multiple lawyers into a one-lawyer job, and it's very unusual that you need multiple lawyers in a school law matter. We are also proud of the fact that we have a long track record of resolving matters short of litigation, short of hearings, short of any kind of contest, and so that's something that we like to emphasize. One of your questions was, who do we anticipate the primary people that would be representing you are? And here we are, but we're not the whole firm. We do have some other attorneys in our firm who do some school law, all kinds of matters relating from litigation to contracts to real estate to construction, anything you need. And our experience, I think, is unmatched in the St. Louis legal community. We have a rather large list there of the various kinds of education law matters that we work on, that we look at on a daily or weekly basis. Some of these things don't crop up as often, but we've generally been there before. We are not plowing new ground with you, and we have a lot of experience, both in those areas that are unique to schools and also in areas that are not as unique to schools. And so that includes, obviously, your labor and employment and all of those HR issues. We also have experience with nonprofits, with creation of nonprofit entities, and representing all kinds of clients before various boards and commissions and the IRS. We also have a large transactional law ability. We do a lot of contract drafting, a lot of looking over contracts, and we hope not to be involved in disputes. We hope to avoid litigation, to negotiate, to settle those things. But when something can't be settled, then we're ready to do what needs to be done litigation-wise. We have we're proud to have some national recognition. We have the slide here that indicates some of that national recognition from best lawyers and chambers and super lawyers. And we are also proud of the fact that we do a fair amount of work representing law firms in this city. So law firms which are obviously entities that are familiar with the kinds of work that is needed and of the demands that are needed, that they choose us to represent them when they need outside counsel.
And I would say that as far as the super lawyers are concerned, we don't let the super lawyers walk around the office with a big S on their chest. Try not to let it get to their heads.
We also pride ourselves on our cost consciousness. I mentioned the fact that we don't double up on matters. And again, we've been doing this long enough that we've got a pretty good feel for what the client needs. Obviously, the most important thing that any lawyer needs to do is to listen to his or her client and to figure out what those needs are. And we hope to be working closely with you, and we will tailor our representation to what your particular needs are. I note that we've been representing Melville for a long time. We've worked very closely with Dr. Knost. We've worked with Dr. Counts, and I've worked with Mrs. Midyett for a pretty long time as well. And we pride ourselves on the relationships that we have established with our clients, and with not just the board of directors and the superintendents, but also the people on the front lines, all the people in central office and building administrators and nurses and counselors and teachers. We are also proud of the fact that we have good relationships with some of the folks that we cross swords with a lot. We have had a lot of matters with, for example, Children's Legal Alliance, which represents a lot of students in this area. And we are adversaries with them, but we are friendly adversaries with them, and they know us and we know them, and we are able to understand each other, and I think that helps us sometimes to resolve matters. We have good relationships with attorneys, for example, with the NEA. We also have good relationships with the attorneys at the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. And I know that a lot of times people are concerned when OCR complaints are filed, and obviously it is something that you'd rather not have happen, but we have a good relationship with those folks, and and we have a great deal of credibility with them. I mentioned that we've been doing school law since 1977. We have represented the Rittner School District, for example, continuously all that period of time. We have also represented Melville for about 30 years and Lindbergh for about 20 or 25. We represent the Voluntary Interdistrict Choice Corporation, and we have worked closely with them as well. And we think that those relationships, that the longevity of those relationships is the result of our having provided good quality service, gotten good results for them, and at a reasonable cost. I mentioned your mission, and again, our job is to help you do yours, and we will listen, and we will listen, and we will help. There was an inquiry in the materials about the fact that this district does not use standard MSBA or music policies, and that is not a problem for us. We have worked with other school districts that have their own policies, and that includes some of our charter school districts, charter schools. We've done that before, and we can handle that. We keep ourselves informed about what is going on, and we can help with policies. One of the other inquiries was about your insurance with music. We know the folks at Music well. We have worked extensively with the claims people, for example, at Gallagher Bassett. We are on their approved list for litigation. We've handled some music-related litigation for school districts. There was also the inquiry about some training that would be included in the representation without charge. And we can commit to a full day or a couple of half days of training. We don't do one-size-fits-all training for schools. We wait for them to tell us what they want, what they need, and we will tailor that to what your needs are. We are also prepared especially when new board members come on and they need some training in some of the legal things that we work with, particularly things like board governance and the Sunshine Law. And we are ready, willing, and able to provide that kind of training as needed without charge. There was also the inquiry about attendance at board meetings. It's my understanding that you don't routinely have your attorney present at board meetings, and I think that's wise, frankly. I think that's a good idea, but we're certainly ready, willing, and able to attend board meetings as needed at a reasonable cost, and if necessary to do that on a flat fee basis, we're perfectly happy to do that. Again, I just thank you so much for the opportunity to make this presentation. We are eager to do whatever it takes to help you. We want to be your lawyers. We think we are a good fit. We have the previous track record with not just with Dr. Knos and Dr. Counts, but with some of your neighboring school districts here nearby. We love doing this kind of work, and we hope to get to know you better.
Thank you. Do we have questions from any of the board members?
I do have a few. One of the things you listed in experience is victory over NEA at $1 million+ claim. What was that? Can you tell us?
That involved, there's a statute that basically says that school districts can only, or are required to devote a certain amount of their money to teacher salaries. And the NEA sued us, sued one of our school districts over that issue. I happen to represent the school district on that matter and obtained summary judgment against the NEA.
You talked about, one of your examples of experience is constitutional litigation. What is that?
We have been involved in some litigation involving free speech and religious freedom. That's one of those areas that doesn't crop up all that often, but especially in this day and age, especially as we see a lot of students becoming more and more involved in political type activity at a younger age, that is something that we follow closely.
And we actually represented the Hazelwood School District in the case that went to the United States Supreme Court.
Okay, I was going to ask my next question, what's the highest court you've argued before?
Well, we didn't argue that.
Oh.
I don't want to mislead you. We didn't argue that case. We wrote the briefs for the lawyer for the Hazelwood School District that did write the briefs. One of the partners in our firm was present for the argument, but was not allowed to argue, which was, even though we won, was probably a mistake because that lawyer at the time happened to have clerked for the Chief Justice, William Rehnquist. But the other lawyer, who is now deceased, I believe.
Is that Kuhlmeyer? Is it Kuhlmeyer versus?
That's correct.
Okay. You named 4 districts, and Rittner's fairly small, Melville's a little bit larger. SSD, I don't know if that is that as large as Rockwood? You have other school? Can you name some other schools?
We do some work for SSD from time to time. Okay. They're not. I do work for SSD.
Okay. Do you have some other large districts like Rockwood that you're a lawyers for?
The largest district we represent right now is Melville.
Melville. Okay. Thank you very much.
Curiosity, where's your office located?
Clayton.
I actually did say that, didn't you?
Oh, yes, he did. I even saw that. Oh, I did have one more. Of all the examples for law, the different types of law, which type of cases do you deal with most? What's the most prevalent? Student disciplines or what?
I would say that it's probably a cross between student discipline and then the employment issues are the things that come up most regularly.
Thank you.
Can I just add something? The other thing that we have been doing a lot lately is kind of when there's cutting edge issues that come up. So, for example, the transgender issue that's been going on for the last few years, we were working closely with our school district clients back when that kind of started. As Robert mentioned, the protest and free speech stuff. So when there's kind of hot legal topics that come up, we tend to spend some time with our clients on those that have questions.
You also mentioned you're a smaller firm, 16 lawyers?
17.
Where do you rank in terms of educational lawyer programs in St. Louis, size-wise? In the middle, lower, upper?
In terms of in comparison with other education?
Yeah, your size compared to other ones.
I would say we're probably middle towards the top in terms of the number of attorneys that have experience doing school law. I want to say that 10 of our attorneys, maybe a little more, are members of the Council of School Attorneys through MSBA, and so at least 12 or so regularly work on school.
Some of your 16 lawyers do other things besides just school law.
So everybody on our firm does not do school law. I think, in answer to your question, I think we're probably the second largest in terms of number of lawyers who handle school matters. I believe we're the second largest.
Well, you know what I'm going to ask next. Who's the first?
With Keeney?
With Keeney, okay.
Yeah, they have more lawyers that handle school law than we do. Maybe we're the third. I don't know how many Mickus has.
Yeah.
They could have more.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Presenting second this evening is the law firm of Lashley & Bear, who is our incumbent lawyers for the district at the current time. And tonight we have Lisa Stump and Larry Watsack.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having us. We are very excited to be here tonight. Our presentation's a little bit different because we feel like you all know us and you know our work. We're kind of talked back and forth as to how to best approach this with you all without boring you also by telling you things about us that you already know. However, since this is a public meeting, I will say that I'm Lisa Stump, and this is Larry Watsack, and we are both partners at the law firm of Lashley & Bear. We have been representing the Rockwood School District since 2006, so 12 years. And let me just say that Rockwood is a very, very special client to us and to me. I've spent the majority of my, or not the majority, but a large part of my career doing work just for the Rockwood School District. And I will say that we have always felt like we are not just contractors for the district. We feel like we are part of the Rockwood team and that we have worked with the board and the administration as a part of accomplishing your mission and getting you all where you need to be. I will say for both Larry and I and for the rest of our team, there is several other attorneys, many of them you have met before. We have 8 other people that are included on our proposal that have also worked for Rockwood and done work on Rockwood issues for a long period of time. And I will say for all of us that we are very honored to have represented Rockwood for the last 12 years, and we really hope to continue to be able to do so. As I said, we struggled a little bit on how best to present information about us to you. And we do want to talk a little bit about Lashley & Bear and the firm as a whole and the work that we have to offer. And so Larry's handing out a document, actually 2 documents, but the one that I want to refer to, it's called Highlights of Lashley & Bear Representation, where we tried to fit 12 years of work into a 1-page sheet. So if it's okay with you guys, we'd like to go through that sheet with you, pointing out some things along the way. And certainly, especially for some of you new board members, if you have questions about Lashley & Bear or about us that I'm not referring to, please ask. So Lashley & Bear, I'm going to wait till Larry's done since he's distracting.
The 3 handouts?
Thanks, Larry.
2 of them.
So we're 2 handouts. We're going to go through the one that says, that's titled Highlights of Lashley & Bear Representation. So Lashley & Bear has represented school districts in Missouri for almost 50 years, and the Rockwood School District since April of 2006. Our education group, which right now is comprised of 8 to 9 attorneys, has over 100 years combined experience addressing and solving the issues presented to school districts. And more importantly, we believe we are familiar with the legal issues involved in representing the Rockwood School District. Not only have we assisted in reviewing and drafting many of the district's policies and regulations, we are also knowledgeable regarding the practices and procedures of the district. This can result in a lower cost to you all. There is a significant cost and learning curve that can occur in changing lawyers, and we believe that the most cost-effective option would be to remain with us. And I want to give an example, too, of just the types of things. For example, one of the things I do is a lot of the special education work that Rockwood has. And I understand your relationship, Rockwood's relationship with SSD, which is not necessarily the same as another district's relationship. And I understand your approach to special ed issues in your early childhood program and your approach to Section 504 compliance. I've worked closely with Dr. Counts and Dr. Brown and Dr. Smith on the various issues in order to provide consistency in the way Rockwood addresses the special education issues across the district.
One of the areas that we were asked to specifically address is the extent to which we were willing to provide professional development training at no cost to the district. The second handout that I gave you was a list of what we've done in the past 12 years that represents the free seminars and in-service trainings that we've done for the administrators, the registrars, the social workers, various elements of the organization. That does not include our participation in the career fair that we participate in every year for Rockwood. What you'll see is that some of them are repeated, and so there is a method to our madness. Some of the training is specifically designed to help you lower your legal costs. A good example of that is handling subpoenas. Thanks to our friends in the legal business, there are more subpoenas being inundated in schools nowadays, either testimonial subpoenas and record subpoenas. It's a tactic that lawyers are using to trying to get classroom teachers and social workers and counselors into court. So we've been working with your staff to try to train them as to how they can handle a subpoena correctly without our involvement and try to save money with legal fees. In addition to in-service training sessions, as you're aware, we were also willing to attend any Board of Education meeting at no charge, and that offer still stands today. We had an opportunity to go through time records to see how much time we put in in-service training, because it was one of the things we were specifically asked to address. We learned that since 2006, we've contributed over $100,000 in free legal services in that 3-page document that you see there. Lashley & Bear is a full-service law firm. All the legal services that you need, we can provide. That goes with our government and school lawyers as well as the other lawyers. We have a 50-person law firm, and you have the full complement of our entire law firm. That includes such areas as tax law, real estate law, construction law, and employee benefits, just to name a few. Another area that we were specifically asked to address is our involvement in music. And I can tell you that we've been on the music panels the full 12 years we've been at Rockwood. And we're always careful to keep the district involved in the decision-making, and Dr. Canosa will back me up on this, I think, that not all law firms do that. So just because music is in a case doesn't mean that we lose our client relationship with you. We keep you involved in the decision-making throughout every case, whether music's involved in it or not. Another area we were asked to address is our availability on phone calls. And I can tell you that it would be unusual for both Lisa and I not to be available for a phone call or an email, whether it's after hours or on weekends. I can remember during the past year, more than one occasion where Dr. Canosa and Dr. Counts and I were emailing on a Saturday. And I can remember an employment matter, specifically as I sit here tonight, where Dr. Rebele and I were actually emailing each other on a Sunday morning. So we're serious when Lisa says we look at this as a partnership. We take whatever steps are necessary to get the job done, whether that's after hours or on weekends.
The next thing we wanted to point out is that we have, there was the question that we were asked about the policies and regulations, and whether we've dealt with policies and regulations that are not MSBA. Obviously, we have. We have reviewed, revised, and created over 100 policies and regulations for the Rockwood School District. We included the list of sample policies and regulations that we reviewed are actually in our proposal. And having assisted in the drafting of these policies and regulations, we are familiar with their requirements as well as the policy reasons behind the provisions should an issue arise. An example of this would be in the area of elections. When we first started representing the district 12 years ago, it was a very big issue in the district after an election, and the board at the time directed the administration to provide an electioneering committee, which I actually served on, and we developed what you have now as Regulation 0380. And I can tell you that most school districts do not have something like that, and it is unique to Rockwood. And luckily, we haven't had to pull it out in the last few years, but certainly when an election issue comes up, that's the first resource. We developed forms for the staff and for the PTOs, guidelines to follow based on that. So that would be just an example of something that we know about and that we can answer a question on very quickly, having been involved with Rockwood on it since the beginning. One other thing I wanted to note is I mentioned that we have 8 attorneys in our proposal, and only over half of our education group attorneys are women. And women, not just me, but others, are actively involved in the representation of Rockwood, mirroring the diversity of the Rockwood staff and the Rockwood Board of Education. Each summer, as you all know, we provide Rockwood with a summary of the changes in Missouri legislation that affect Rockwood that occurred in the last legislative session. We also suggest changes to Rockwood policies and regulations to comply with changes in the law. And this summary of the new legislation that we do every year is completed at no charge to the district. Certainly, when there are court opinions that come out that are relevant, we advise you of those right away too, along with any policy and regulation changes that are required as a result of those also. And in our proposal, we have had to increase our hourly rate for the district after 12 years. We had the same hourly rate for you for 12 years, and our new proposal does increase that somewhat, a minor amount, but Larry and I struggled with that because we know how important cost is to you and that you are representing your constituents. And so what we have proposed is we were trying to think of a way to compensate for that, and we have come up with the idea of offering office hours, which would essentially consist of 2 times a month where we'll come out to the administration office and just be available in a conference room. It would be either Larry or I, and the staff could come and ask us any questions that they have, and we would do that at no charge. So there's a lot more that I could say after 12 years, but I know it's already been a long night for you all, and you have other things on your agenda. I do hope that you can look at our proposal. If you all want more detailed information, all of those areas of law we go through and we say exactly what we've done for schools and for Rockwood specifically. It's 70 pages, so if you want more information, it is there for you all. But I just want to say that we just are so proud of everything that this district is accomplishing, and we are so proud to have been a part of the Rockwood team, and we really, really hope that we can continue to do so. So, any questions?
I do have some, if that's okay. I'm confused, Lisa. At one time, I think you said you had 9 lawyers that are dedicated to education?
You know, we have 8 lawyers in our proposal, and I did orally state 8 to 9 because as I was saying, after I said 8, I thought of another attorney who also can provide services and has been So, but there's 8 in the proposal.
But the law firm itself has over 50 lawyers?
Yeah.
Obviously, the other ones aren't.
They're all available to the district, but
Okay.
these 8, the 8 that are in our proposal are lawyers that actually have all worked for Rockwood on different issues. For instance, Rhonda O'Brien, who does all your benefit work, and all she does is government work, government tax and benefit work. Ken Brostron, who you all know, luckily you don't see him very often because we only bring him in when you have a large litigation matter or something requiring his expertise, because he's one of those nationally known litigation attorneys that has a lot of awards also. So that's the type of people that are included in our proposal, and we use them on Rockwood matters when needed.
Sort of off the cuff, but who is Lashley and who is Bear? Because we know who Elbert is now.
Lashley and Bear are 2 attorneys that have founded our firm, and they both are deceased. And so,
Just carry that name on.
actually, John Lashley, there were 2 Lashley brothers. They actually were the first, and I'd had one of the first ones to start working in school law in the city of St. Louis. They started representing the city school board. John Lashley did.
The next one will change a little bit from the last time. You deal with a lot of different types of law in education. What do you feel, either one of you or both of you, is your strongest area that you could do in your sleep? Well, maybe not that, but it's the strongest area, the one that you know the most about in terms of education laws.
Well, for me, the strongest area that I can do in my sleep, and but it's applicable to you, it's not necessarily education, is the Sunshine Law.
Okay.
I speak on that all over the state. I just spoke at MOASBO on it. That's kind of my thing that I can do quickly. As far as the other thing that I've done a lot on that I can do in my sleep, is, which we're not dealing as much with, is the whole bullying issues. When the new law came out for that a few years ago, again, I spoke on that a lot and did a lot of work on that.
Okay.
And I would like Larry to answer that question.
Yeah, you get a different answer from each of the 9 lawyers in the government group. Mine would be student issues or employment matters. That's the benefit of having specialists, that we combined, we cover all the areas, but we each have our strong suits.
Good. Other districts that you represent?
Right now, you are our main school district client. We do a little bit of work for the Jefferson R7 school district, and then we do work for other school districts through music, because we are on their list. As some of you know, a lot of our experience in school law was originally, we did represent the city school district for over 30 years.
I'm sorry, who?
We represented the city school district for over 30 years originally.
Okay, one last question. You were talking about you're increasing the hourly rate this year, and I don't need to know that, how much you're increasing, but can you estimate how much more money that will be coming to you based on that increase in hourly rates? Just a rough estimate of how much more money your firm would get from us.
You know, and Dr. Kinder, that's a good question, but I would think it's so dependent on the amount of work that the district has. And I will say that in the last couple of years, our legal fees are going down as a whole with the district because of Dr. Knost and his cabinet and the way that they are supervising the work. There's really only the issues that come to us are issues that really need a legal involvement in. And the other thing that we've done, a lot of these in-services, I think and we've been doing in-services too as requested. So, for example, Dan Steinbrugge asked me to do one for his group talking about garnishments and record retention. But I think doing those type of things then limits, the legal fees where the the district's getting charged. So I say all that, and I'm really not helping you. I'm not really not giving you a flat answer.
No, it's interesting because I think last year
But-
you had the most workshops that you did.
Yeah.
And then like a couple of years before that, it was almost nothing.
Yeah, and I will say, you know, when the rate we gave you for 12 years, I mean, that was a long time to stay at that rate, and the only reason it had to go up a little bit was just it's not consistent. We had to, from our firm standpoint, we have a policy that when we put out a new proposal, we have to consider a new rate, and especially if one hasn't been raised in 12 years. But as I said, Larry and I are, and we would work with Dr. Canos to try to figure out whatever we could so that your overall legal fees would not increase as a result.
Good, thank you very much.
But can I speculate and ask you that, is that what your average client would see, you not raising your rates for 12 years? I mean, I think that's a
No, we
long
did that as a
time.
special, and I am not saying this facetiously when I say that Rockwood is special to us. Rockwood is special to us. And we decided that 5 years ago when we submitted the proposal. We did get pressure from the firm to increase it and would have, but we explained how we didn't want to do that at that time. That was, you know, brief, there was a little more turmoil going on, and it was after the audit, and we didn't really think that it was right and didn't want to do that. And I will tell you that even though we're in a public meeting, I will tell you that the rate that we are proposing in here is less than what a lot of our government clients get charged.
You can get a call tomorrow from your government clients?
I might.
She will now.
Yeah.
Questions?
I have a question that is just a clarification question, nothing to do
Sure.
with this. Lisa, you were recently named, your title, did you get the word president in front of your?
I am. I was elected president of Lashley and Bear.
Okay, that's right. Well, congratulations.
Of the law firm.
He's our superintendent.
I believe you're the first woman
I am.
to be president
I
of the
am.
firm.
I'm proud of that. So
Well done.
thank you, you all. We're very happy to be here and always enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so next we need a motion to approve the 2018-19 extracurricular activity, ECA stipends and positions as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, and we have Dr. Tracy Edwards. I saw her. Oh, she has to go over there, coming up to the podium or to the table.
I think I'm going to stop here, if that's okay. Oh, love the clicker. Good evening, good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on our 18-19 ECA recommendations. Hopefully you have the PowerPoint there in front of you, if you will. Just a few items to touch base on in terms of the presentation. So the first slide is our committee, and I just think it's really important to thank and recognize our staff and our administration that spends the time to come forward with district committee and district work and support our district. So I just want to thank all of those listed for their time this year. This is an annual committee. Next up is the long-range goal. So we have worked hard since 14-15, and thank you to your support, have maintain this long-range goal, and that is to be at the midpoint of the third quartile of our Ed Plus comparables, so 20-plus school districts and Ed Plus. We look at their data and we be sure that we're aligned and all of our ECAs are matching that. So the cost to sustain the goal in the 18-19 school year will cost us $30,000, and that second handout that you all received is the breakdown that shows you exactly what we pay, which ones had to increase a little bit, which ones stayed the same to in fact stay at that midpoint. But again, that long-range goal is $30,000. Next up is the page at which shows you some 18-19 recommendations that do not have a cost factor to them. I will just highlight and hit them very, very briefly just to kind of explain. So there's 3 under the fine arts world. The first one up, currently we require some really unique professional expertise to have a subcert. That's what that 60 hours is, 60 college credit hours. We just come across some situations in which the perfect person to do the work may not have those 60 hours to do that. So we're going to vet them through, ensuring, of course, absolute fingerprints, background checks, et cetera, but we're going to kind of relook at that so that we can get the best of the best working with our kids when it comes to professional expertise. The choreograph, currently we have 3 at 618. Basically, what we're just doing is we're separating them to say that the high school musical choreograph takes far more extensive and a unique set of skills to do a high school choreograph than it does just a regular play, if you will. And then the last one, again, is kind of a formality. Right now, we currently have them labeled, the marching bands, as woodwind brass and movement. And really, to be honest, they kind of fold a lot of times, and our ADs and our band teachers kind of need to have a little bit more fluidity to that. So we just want to assign, same at no cost, just 2 high school band clinicians and just be more generic with it and not have to worry about that, specificity. So that's what those 3 are about. Again, no increase to the budget, just kind of some changes there. Then the last page basically highlights the conversations and work that the committee did, and that is bringing forward new stipends and future considerations, if you will. So again, trying to be brief and kind of share what you're seeing in front of you. We wanted to take a look at the fact that middle school drama, our 6 middle schools, some do musicals, some do plays. Again, musicals are far more intense with what you need to do to tackle that work, and so we wanted to kind of split that up and pay that a little bit more. If, in fact, I want to call to your attention, the total cost on the right column is if all the schools used that stipend. So the stipend amount is just that, and then some of them you'll see, especially this next one up, won't necessarily, if we decide in the future to go forward, it might not cost us $8,000. So number 2, right now, 1 high school of our 4 currently has a competitive show choir. So, and they do not have a separate stipend for that. They, as you know, you're very involved, they travel, they do a lot of additional work at that particular school. We would be requesting a stipend for high school show, competitive is the key word in that one. And so again, it would be $8,000 if all 4 do it. Right now, only 1 of our 4 high schools conduct that, so I hope that makes sense. Additional football has to do with all 4 of our high schools are successful and have large programs, and the ADs and football coaches feel that safety is an issue, so that's what that is about. So that's number 3. Number 4 has to do with kind of, again, safety and rotating in and out, pulling coaches off of the fields and staffing those weight rooms for safety and supervision, plus all the other work that's done, and our head coaches like the kids to be in the room off season, and so that's hard to do. Number 5 is kind of fun. Number 5 has to do with girls wrestling. So Misha has approved for, in 18-19, for girls to have their own state competition. So if in fact we have girls, our wrestling increases, we're probably going to need a coach to support that work. Everything from teaching them how to wrestle to supervision and locker rooms and all that. Additional cross-country, that has to do with, right now we only have 38, 2 at each school. We do have many schools when we went to daily PE a few years ago that have 2.5, and so that just helps support, if the school in fact has 2.5 or above PE teachers, it supports giving them a little bit of money to run that cross-country. And then lastly, there is no figure yet because it is work to be done in 18-19 around really taking a look at increasing the band stipends. The high school band staff wants to take a look at that currently where we are. So that's to be determined because we still have some work to do with that. So that is, again, the 18-19 future consideration page. Hopefully I explained it enough to kind of get an idea, but not too much that it was too much. So any questions?
I have one. When you talk about on the change in the fine arts requirements, currently looking at 60 hours, I assume you'd be looking at experience in the field that would contribute to that.
Correct.
Okay.
Tracy?
Yes, sir?
I looked at the first page, I think it was, it said $30,000. I said, that's how much additional you're proposing for next year.
Yes, sir. So in order to maintain the midpoint, 3rd quartile midpoint, the second handout that has all the breakdown of all of our sports, and then the second page has all of our fine arts, mostly the second page is fine arts jobs. In order to maintain that, it's going to cost us $30,000.
That's just to maintain.
To maintain, yes, sir.
Okay, well, I looked at that and I forgot the word maintain, so I came over and looked at this last page. I said, there's no way that total cost is only $30,000. but maintain is 30,000, and you're recommending these other additional, I'm not looking at that page, I'm looking at
The PowerPoint, yes, sir.
And that totals up to be about 23,000. Which is the stipend amount, right?
Those are future considerations.
Oh, no, future is what, next year?
Like if the I'm sorry, you go ahead, because why am I?
No. So currently, we know that budgeted is approximately $30,000 for ECAs. So we know that in order to maintain that midpoint, we're asking for that. While the ECA committee would love to say that right now, moving into 18-19, that the page that has the splitting the drama and new competitive show choir, et cetera, that's future considerations due to the current budget.
Dr. Kinder, I've been pretty adamant the last few years that we deal with potential new positions or new add-ons during the budget building process, which, as you know, begins in the fall. So we will consider all these when we're going through that process from the beginning. We wouldn't add them on late in the day. Since we try to stay consistent, you're going to have the preliminary budget that you've seen earlier presented to you again tonight, but we don't like to add on employment pieces to that unless it's absolutely necessary.
Thanks.
Sure. Anything else?
So are we good? I mean, the girls wrestling will be a sport next school year. And we're okay now?
Yes, and speaking to the ADs who are involved in this committee, as well as my joining them, it's a meeting, we had conversations around that we felt like, due to the number currently right now, they're able to staff it. But I guess we feel that, boy, once those girls hear that they're going to have their own, starting at the district level, have their own competition and their own program, potentially it could definitely raise itself, so.
Okay. All right.
We'll see.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, thanks, Tracy.
All right, thank you.
All right, so the motion is to approve the 2018-19 ECA stipends and positions as listed. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Next, we have the Missouri Seal of Biliteracy. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot there's a motion here. Motion to approve the Missouri Seal of Biliteracy as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. So coming up, we have Executive Director of Learning and Support Services, Dr. Shelley Willott. ESOL, World Language Content Facilitator, Jeff Tamaroff. Spanish teacher at Rockwood Summit High School, Jason Sinclair. And French teacher at Eureka High School, Janice Deneur. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. I'm just going to say something quickly to prep you. One of the things that we've been talking about in the curriculum department a lot is preparing students for a global society. So when this came across my desk, these three people were instrumental in giving our students an opportunity to get recognition for being biliterate. And so they're going to talk to you this evening about this. This came from the state of Missouri, who approved the Seal of Biliteracy, and these three were instrumental in putting this together for Rockwood so that we can offer that for our students here. Take it away, Jeff.
Thank you for having us this evening. We just wanted to give you a little bit of information on the Seal of Biliteracy, some of its origins, some of the benefits for our students, and then answer any questions that you may have. So, what is it? The Missouri Seal of Biliteracy is a recognition of a student's attainment of mastery in 2 or more languages. So one of them is, of course, English, and then the other one could be a language that they study in class with Mr. Sinclair, Mr. Noor, or it also could be a home language of one of our ESOL students. Missouri has 2 levels of the seal, which are sort of distinguished by their academic rigor. There's the General Missouri Seal and the Distinguished Missouri Seal. Missouri is one of 33 states to offer the seal. Hopefully, eventually, all 50 states will have the seal. And then we have built, with the help of Kathy Order's department, a nice information page on the curriculum website, which I hope you will take a look at.
Who is eligible for the Seal of Biliteracy? All Rockwood students. That's one of the things that's really amazing about this. Going off script, sorry, kind of taking it out.
Good.
Taking a page out of your book. It's not just for the Spanish students, it's not just for the students that are actually in our language programs, it's for our heritage and our native language speakers, and so it really goes the extra step to celebrate diversity, which is really important. What are the other bullet points up there? I think that's it. Yeah. Students will apply for the seal their senior year using an online application. It's something that, if placed timely and effectively, will definitely add to many of their college decisions and impact not only their college readiness, but their career readiness. Hopefully I'm not stepping on it.
Do you get another seal if you know a third language or a fourth language, or do you just get one?
It would be 2 different seals, one for each language that you would end up having. So if you're trilingual, you would have that, seal of English and this language, English and that language. So you would have 2 different ones, which would be awesome.
Somebody from the school have to sign off on that they really do know those languages?
We taking tests that are generally accepted at the state level.
Okay, good.
Students, or why do they need a seal? There's a lot of different reasons, and we're looking at the end of their senior year, mainly because we want to see what they can do after going through 4 to 6 years of program at the Rockwood School District, but there's also some other benefits as well. It does provide, as a former member of the board on the Foreign Language Association of Missouri, we've worked with several university alumni and current staff, and they're both saying that the seal of biliteracy will be recognized. To what extent depends on the university, but we're looking at what can our kids do after high school. We're also looking at not just the university students, but also, again, diversity here. There's some students with the seal of biliteracy that might be recognized for a job or as having the skills necessary to be in a tutoring program or to help elementary students or backpack projects, etc. So there's more than just the university student that we're looking at. It prepares them for 21st century skills. That's getting to be an older buzzword, but it's still relevant today, and more currently in STEM. It's a soft skill for the STEM set, and if our kids stay in the language, they start in 6th grade with an introductory level, and they start in the 7th grade. By the time they get to their senior year, they should be at that ability level that they can converse and be at a conversational level. And biliteracy means not only speaking, but also writing. So we have the 2 components in it, and they're tested on 3 modes, on speaking and listening, as well as writing, and the presentational writing, and then on interpretive reading and listening too. So it covers all 3. And it really helps strengthen their skills in any job set, and it really can make them stand out in many of our after-school university professions. I'm trying to not use my hands. I also want to take this opportunity to say thank you, Dr. Knost, for serving on the Commissioners Advisory Council. I know you've been very integral in the seal of biliteracy going on, and Dr. Henningsen really talked highly of you. And we at FLAM, when Jason and I started this, it was 3 years ago, and it's been a long road, but your speaking out at that council really made it a realization in the state of Missouri. And there's many school districts that are taking advantage of it, and I'm really excited that Rockwood is looking to this.
Yeah, and Janice, I have to say that, I remember the first time you brought this to my attention, my head was spinning because I didn't really know what you were talking about. So little did I know that at some point I'd be addressing that as a member of the Commissioners Advisory Council, really. And of course, you, in what you explained and what I learned, made all the sense in the world. And it was fun to see the excitement grow, from around the state. And there is a lot of excitement. So the only thing I just had a meeting, I don't know if it was last week, I was at Jeff City, Janet. And the only bummer was we weren't approved yet, so our name wasn't on the list, so I had to sit there kind of twiddling my thumbs, but I knew it was coming, so.
We wanted to make sure it was all good.
Yeah, we saved the best for last.
Yes.
That must be a clicker. There we go. So Dr. Kennedy asked before what the requirements were. So for the English component, the state has established the English 2 end of course exam, and you have to score proficient or advanced on that. We use the Apple test, which we've been using for about 4 years now, to show the high level of language proficiency. Students can also opt to take an AP exam. With the timing of when AP exams get back, that typically is going to be for someone who's taking an AP exam their junior year, which we have a number of students do. The Apple exam, when we give that, typically starting in March, early April, we get those results back for the students to do their application. The English language learners, since they don't have assessments in every English language learner's home language, we can use a portfolio which we would reach out to community members. Shelley and I actually had the honor of attending the Tamil language school here in St. Louis. They invited us to come to their graduation ceremony on Saturday. So we have a lot of Tamil language speakers in the district, but we don't have a test for that. So that's a partnership we're looking forward to, so their teaching staff can certify that population's linguistics ability is in their home language. Right now, one of the other things we've decided as a state of Missouri is to have students show cultural competence as well, because it's great to be able to speak the language, but that your cultural competence is what's going to bring when you're in the workforce or pursuing post-Rockwood studies, that's going to be very important. So right now, so we can get as many students to apply this graduating class, we're using an essay, but we're going to explore some other options and partner with some of our neighbor districts and look at other things. We also expect a high academic achievement in related coursework, which of course is your language courses and particularly the language arts classes, and then no discipline infractions, so good citizenship as well. Oh, there we go. Do you guys have any questions for us?
I have a comment and a question. First, Janice, I knew it was you in the audience, but then when you got up here and you were talking and you weren't using your hand, I thought that's got to be a clone. That's not Janice. I like the concept and everything. It's really great. The one that does concern me is number 6, no discipline infractions. And my thought is, surely there's some leeway. If a kid goes out and robs a bank, you would suspect that kid would not make it. But if a kid gets an infraction for throwing trash in the cafeteria, that's a discipline infraction. Does that make them ineligible?
So that's state guidance, Dr. Kinder. So I think as we look at these things, a suspension is a lot different than a misbehaving thing. So when we get to that level, I think we'll take that as a case-by-case basis. Most of these students that are going to be applying are typically good citizens. They're AP level students in most instances, and those guys typically have pretty stellar discipline records as well, but we will of course examine that as a case-by-case basis.
I would bet it's probably going to parallel what we've dealt with for years. For instance, like with A+ certification, they impose it, but they often provide leeway back at the district, and they don't necessarily say that, but I've had plenty of examples where DESE has thrown that back to the district to make a determination. So I think your point is really well taken, because I thought the same thing, but I think I have some comfort there because I trust that there will be some common sense approach to that.
And if I might add, I think it's the same procedure that we go through at the high school for honor cords.
Yes.
Before they're approved for an honor cord. We want to make sure that there's no cheating in the history or any infraction that would make wearing the cord dishonorable.
I really like number 3 also. That shows that we do care about diversity, and it could have been easily left out. I'm glad it's put in there.
So who's your average kid that's going to receive this bioliteracy, the seal? Is it going to be, for example, a kid who takes 3 years of Spanish at Eureka High School, or is it a kid who really has, is that enough, or is it?
I would say to get the level of proficiency required by the Apple test, most of our students to get a Missouri seal, which is the lower level, would need at least 4 years of language. In running the data so far, we do have some level 3 students that are atypical examples of level 3 students that are achieving that lower level seal. But most of our students who are in level 4 and almost all of our students that are in level 5 are at that Missouri seal level. The distinguished is the reach that actually has a pretty rigorous level of proficiency across the board, which we all have some concerns about because most individuals aren't strong in every level of language ability. There's some people that are excellent public speakers but may not be great writers. So we have some concerns because by human nature, not everyone is a great listener, great reader, great speaker, great writer. So that's some of the feedback we're hoping to bring back to the state, that there should be a little wiggle room in that. But right now, the guidance that we're receiving is they want to go through the process a couple years, see how many seals each district is granting, and then review the policy and some of those regulations at a later date.
Good. Thanks.
Anything else? Anyone? Okay, so the motion is to approve the Missouri Seal of Biliteracy as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have a motion to approve the review of policy 2525, graduation requirements.
As Shelley's coming up.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I did not say I need a motion. I'm sorry. Can we have a motion to approve that review of the policy?
So moved. Second.
A motion, a second, and here is Dr. Shelley Willett.
So Shelley's here, but just a real quick requirement or clarification that this is, we're simply asking, this is that we haven't done this in a while, so just a refresher, all of the policy changes we've brought forward, we've really have been relative to changes with the law. This is us asking to review a policy. That's all we're asking for tonight. We're not asking for approval of anything, and Shelley will explain what that is.
So this is in our graduation requirements. It's not.
It's on.
Okay. It's in our graduation requirements, and it pertains specifically to our personal finance course. So the state of Missouri requires every student to take a half-credit personal finance course before they graduate. Rockwood currently offers 3 ways for students to do that. The first one is to take a standalone personal finance course. The second one is to take an embedded personal finance course, and that is within the AP microeconomics and macroeconomics class. So they have to take both of those put together, and the personal finance is embedded in that. And then the third is to actually test out. So the assessment that's used for that is called the MOPFA, the Missouri Personal Finance Assessment, and the state requires students to take that if they're doing the embedded course or the test out. If you take the standalone course, you do not have to take the MOPFA test. And in fact, the state doesn't even provide a cutoff for what the score should be if you give that test in the embedded course. So our current policy is stating that we are to give that test to students who take the standalone course. There's no cutoff, they just have to take it, and no one is using that assessment for anything. So we're having kids take a test that they don't need to take. So that's why we wanted to review the policy.
So it's going to be a really easy review. We're obviously going to talk with our attorneys and bring it right back to you. So not a complicated thing, but we're trying to honor our existing PIN process. And before we do that, ask the board's approval to do that.
What would be the hang-ups why wouldn't we approve that? Is the question?
It just makes common sense to me. Why would you have kids take an assessment that they don't have to get a specific score on and that no one uses? It's a waste of instructional time.
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, and I'm still committed to, we need to review this PIN process and how we do these things, because it's, really, Shelley brought this to my attention, and we should have just went forward with it, but we're abiding by our PIN process to get your approval to look at it.
And actually, the policy, I believe, is a one-line change that we would have to make. It's the regulation where some things would have to get spelled out in that part of it.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so the motion is to approve.
How did you find this, Shelley?
Because the personal finance teacher started asking me and Glenn Hancock, why are we giving this test? Because we don't have to have a score on it. The state of Missouri says we don't have to give it. This is silly.
Good. Thanks.
Good, that's a good answer. Motion to approve the review of policy 2525. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have an informational proposed budget update. We have Paul Northington, our CFO, and Director of Finance, Dan Steinbrugge. Gentlemen?
Good evening.
Good evening, Dan.
Tonight we have a brief update on our operating budget. So we are here, we're in the process of finalizing our budget document, and we'll be back to the board in the June 21st meeting with our full budget document for formal approval. Our presentation tonight includes a recap of our current year projection, and those numbers follow the financial reports that we've been sending to the board since November, and then it also provides a summary of our 2018-19 budget target that we initially presented back in December compared to where we are now. So that'll be the primary focus of our presentation tonight for discussion. Overall, slide down. Overall, it'll be consistent that our numbers from December have not changed on the revenue or expenditure side. We've updated them based off of information that's been provided to us through DESE or what we've seen at the local level. And expenditure-wise, we've updated based off of decisions that have been made by the board since December. So again, overall, our current year, our revenue for 18-19 has only increased $158,000. And then we go to a slide that shows our 19 assumptions in revenue. So this provides just kind of a quick recap of our major revenue sources and some of the items that's involved in there. A couple items I wanted to point out. At the state level, in the past week, we've received some positive information coming from the 19 budget that's been approved by the legislators. So it's provided some positive information for education funding from a finance standpoint. The legislature, the House and the Senate has appropriated enough funds to fully fund the formula. So if that would come through, the SAT would be at 6308. Given that we've just gotten that information the past week, and also we're going to kind of monitor what's also going on at the legislative office over the next couple months through the summer and the fall. We've elected to keep our 19 numbers for SAT at 6241. So that's our current level funding right now. There's a chance, the budget's on the governor's desk. We'll go through, but we want to make sure that the guidance as we go through the summer includes that the appropriation will be there for us to increase our numbers. Also, from a state standpoint, they appropriated $10 million additional to transportation funding. So we also have kept our current numbers for transportation because unfortunately transportation is a budget line that if funds were to be withheld, that's one of the first areas that the governor will go to withhold funds for there. So right now we're going to kind of keep those two items kind of on hold until we get more information through the summer and into the fall.
Has he said anything about it, or is it just maybe possible ramifications of everything that's happened this year?
From the state formula standpoint, it's rare that the appropriations are withheld. But from a transportation standpoint, it has been cut in the past.
Didn't the previous governor, Jay Nixon, did he withhold some transportation funds or something?
He did strategically because of some vetoes and some attempts to do some things that he felt were bad for education. It was eventually released, but it was held back.
So there was transportation withholds in this current budget year, I think to the tune of about 15 million.
Yeah.
What would you say, Paul?
There were transportation budget withholds this current fiscal year.
Right, okay.
And that happened very early in the year. And so as Dan mentioned, that's something we'll keep an eye on and see how it proceeds going into the fall.
So we're keeping those two line items at our current level right now. So. Also at the local level, obviously we had, back in September when we set the tax rate, we had positive news from an assessed valuation standpoint, 8.8% increase. With that, we're also following the amount of taxes that were paid in protest. So with increased assessed valuations, you also have the opportunity where taxpayers may protest their assessed valuations and file claims with St. Louis County. Unfortunately, the timing of that is difficult for the district or even the county sometimes to let us know when a settlement can occur. It can span over a couple of years. Our protested taxes did increase, so the amount of taxes that our taxpayers paid into protest did increase. So we're just going to monitor that and kind of get information from the county and just kind of see how that goes as it relates to our budget. From an expenditure standpoint, as you can see, we had very little change to our overall expenditures. We just had some reclassifications between some of our expenditure accounts. So only a $50,000 change since our December numbers.
Say that again, please.
So we've had, in total, our expenditure budget for the operating funds has changed only $50,000. We've had some reclassifications of the categories, expenses and categories, but from December to the budget that we're planning on taking to in June, it's only increased $50,000.
Yeah, you increased 50,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our 19 budget, some of the numbers include, obviously, salaries and benefits is typically 86% of our budget, so that remains the same for 18-19. We have a couple of capital budget reserves for some furniture at the schools, as well as some vehicle replacements that will be released once we know kind of when our revenue numbers come in. But they're earmarked in the budget currently.
But can I ask you a question about that? You know, because people, I'm sure you all get these questions, right? Well, why can't we get a new this in the district? Why can't we get a new that? And, you know, I say it's the budget, and they understand that. But, you know, you're saying you're putting obviously wiggle room in here, right, for some things like that. So how much, well, that's a broad question. Do we have wiggle room in a lot of areas, or is it just wiggle room that you designate as things that you have foreseen as, like, things that are going to happen?
A lot of that originates, too, with conversations that Paul and I have. We want to make sure, I mean, I was hired by this board and said I was committed to presenting balanced budgets to the board, so we're always going to operate in a way that can stay consistent from year to year. And you know, the explanation when I get that question that I often try to help people understand, and I get it a lot of times too from people outside of Rockwood that view us as this flush with cash kind of a district. But I remind people that when our team gets together every year to start building this budget, and when we collect the numbers, we are often millions of dollars over where we need to be to have a balanced budget. And that's why it's not an easy process, and that's why it takes, we get better at it every year, and we do some of that legwork up front so we aren't having to go back and kind of determine collaboratively what we don't bring into the budget. So even all the wonderful things that we have in Rockwood and all the wonderful things that we fund that many districts don't, there are still many, many things that we don't add to our budget in order to keep it balanced. So I tell that story when people say, surely there's money to do this. There's not a pot of money somewhere. If we do this, then we're not going to do that, whatever that may be, and that's the decision to come in. But the wiggle room, that's not built in to have a pot of money somewhere to pull from. That's just to be conservative in our forecasting.
And you've always done a great job doing that, but that was just my question.
I do have one clarification question. So when we're looking at the capital expenditures and you're looking at furniture, equipment, is that taking into account enrollment and increased class sizes where we may have to outfit classes? Is that included in that?
Yes, and more specifically to the construction projects that we're doing, we've already had placeholders for budget amounts for furnishings, for Geggie addition as well as Eureka Elementary.
So they're in these figures?
And there's also a replacement cycle for existing furnishings as well. So that goes back to what Dr. Cano said. You get a list and you have to prioritize it and schedule that out over a period of time.
I guess what I'm leading to is that we're looking at enrollment and numbers and class sizes and balancing also against a balanced budget.
But
So we
yes.
are providing for those students that we have incoming.
But to answer your question, yes, those considerations are part of the budget planning.
I saw that 86%, and I said, no, it's not right, it's 72. But that's teachers is 72% of the operating budget. Then when you put in administration and support staff.
Support staff, and then the benefits will go
Yeah,
in.
then that comes up to 80. Is that typical?
Yeah.
Compared, I don't mean in our district, but typical to
It's
most
typical
districts.
across the state. You'll see it range in that low 80 to mid 80 range, typically across the state of Missouri. It's, education is a labor-intensive facility.
And then to summarize, when we come to the board in June, we're prepared to provide a balanced budget and maintaining our 22% fund balance. The budget that we'll provide in June will also include our non-operating funds as well as our self-sustaining funds like our bond issue funds, our debt service, child nutrition, community education funds. We're currently working with those departments. I see them having balanced budgets as well for those, so that'll be our expectation when we come back to the board in June.
We're anticipating about a $2 million increase in spending next year, but revenue's going to offset that, and it's not that much difference.
So are you comfortable with the 22% fund balance? I know some districts are more, some districts are less.
Yeah, and
I know the board set that a number of years ago, is that correct?
Yeah, fund balance needs really vary by district depending on their level, where their revenues come from. A district that receives more state revenue, their income stream is more constant. Districts that have a higher concentration of local revenue typically need a little bit higher fund balance to get them to the tax season.
Yeah, 22%.
22%.
Basically helps us avoid TANs in the fall, which is a good thing. We don't have to borrow money to make payment. That's a good thing.
That's not mandated. That's not mandated at 22%. Didn't we mandate 18%?
We did with a 4% rainy day fund.
18 to 22, yeah.
Right.
I thought I could have sworn I saw 23.2% somewhere, but I guess must have been in my dreams. I'm not sure.
I addressed that with Tim and Dan when I first came into the district, and just wondering, because I know that, when I was meeting with a lot of taxpayers in the community when I first came in, just getting to know what their concerns, and, they were very straightforward in talking about the district not being a bank and not holding their money. And so my question was, we're on that higher end of 22, and I wasn't around when the decision was made 18 to 22, but Dan is for a long time now very effectively done the math and told us that we really need that 22 to avoid those tax anticipation notes. So,
which saves taxpayers money because you maintain your AAA bond rating.
Right.
So,
yeah, we have the highest bond rating. So
I'm not saying it's too high.
No, I know.
Coming from special school district. Yeah. But I asked that question, so.
Dr. Kinder, to address your 23.2%, you're probably seeing that on our monthly reports that we're sending to you. From an accounting side, we like to have funds. We have a cash basis and an accrual basis. So throughout the year, we're reporting on a cash basis, and that's where the 23.2% is.
Well, I didn't dream it.
No.
I feel much better now.
From a state standpoint, we have to report on an accrual basis, so we have to come.
Okay, good. But it'll end up 22%. Did you have any success? I don't know if this is part of this. Did you have any success when you and Keith Marty went and talked to the Bayer group or the Monsanto move-in group, whatever it was?
Well, success meaning, our goal was to help Bayer employees in Raleigh, North Carolina, decide that they would be interested in coming here to work for Bayer on the Monsanto merger. And now there are 2 follow-up meetings that they hosted here, and one I had a conflict. I had to send. I think Dave and Alex went, and and then they have another one that's been postponed.
It's been postponed.
It's been postponed, and I'm going to attend that one. So
ongoing.
Yes, there was interest in the district.
Oh, good.
They're trying to get roughly 100 to 150 employees to move here because Bear wants to make their headquarters here in St. Louis.
Good.
Okay, anything else? Thank you,
Good job,
gentlemen.
man.
Thank you.
All right, we're getting there. I need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts, $7,500 to $150,000 as submitted.
I moved.
Second.
Second, and Chris Friend.
Good evening. Dan Steinberg and I had a bet who could get done the quickest, and he's about to lose.
Thank you. By a lot.
So the first item we have up for approval is a small flooring package included in bond issue 15, our cycle maintenance flooring replacement. Those locations are Selvage Middle, Ellisville Elementary, and then a gym floor refinish at Wildwood Middle School. I do want to point out the Wildwood Middle School project will be fully funded by music. It is an insurance claim. We just bid it out as part of this package.
Chris, I have a lot of questions about this.
Dan may win. Do you have any questions, or are you just being very funny? Okay, anyone have any questions?
No question.
All right, so let's vote on that one then. That was the motion to approve the bond issue purchases for $7,500 to $150,000. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one's fine. And then the next one is we need a motion to approve the bond issue purchases and related contracts over $150,000 from B&K Tuck Pointing for district-wide tuck pointing FY18.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, so you can go ahead on that one, please.
Okay, the second item is also included in bond issue 15, cycle maintenance. It is out of the tuck pointing budget. Two locations. One is Ellisville Elementary. It's actually tuck pointing the east elevation of the cafeteria space. We've had some water infiltration issues there, and this will address those issues. And then Annex A building, we just did a large window renovation project at that location, and during that project, we identified some tuck pointing needs. It is one of our older buildings, and we're confident that this will solve all the water infiltration issues we've had at that building.
Any questions? Dr. Kinder?
No.
Sorry, I was just being funny. Okay, so the motion is to approve these bond issue purchases. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all you got, Chris?
That's it.
I think you won.
You win by a lot.
What do you win? Definitely win.
All right, proposed agenda for June 7, 2018, Board of Education meeting.
So I have a question. We have board work session on here, as we've talked about several times, but I am just throwing this out there, given the presentations tonight and the offering of services from both legal firms to assist in certain topics. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be smart to put this retreat off by one meeting, if that would give enough time for us to implement some educational piece from the law firm into our retreat discussion.
Sure.
Which applies to many of our topics.
Sure.
I think that makes good sense, yeah.
Makes sense in my mind.
Very good sense.
Do we have conflicts for the meeting following June 7th, where a retreat?
There's some items on it. It's not full packed, but there's some other items on it.
Maybe a little longer meeting, but
Yeah.
Oh, great idea.
we apparently like those.
Right.
But we could modify that one to maybe, not do closed or do a shorter closed
Yeah.
or something,
You
because
know-
by that time there isn't.
June 7th.
Kind of the same thing. I mean, we were going to ask that question tonight, just about the meeting time, because we had said that it's really the board's pleasure. I mean, we can back up close. Keep in mind, as long as we post appropriately, we can back it up to any time we want. We can do a 30-minute close, and you can tell me to just do my best to keep it at that, although we've got some closed business still it'll be needed going into June. And if we want to start early, we were going to try to resolve that as far as the next meeting, but if we're going to postpone by one, we'll wait and see how things develop, and we'll talk about that next time.
Okay, so we'll move that to the 21st, if that works for everybody. And then Okay. We'll invite the law firm that we select at the next meeting to do some PD for us for the retreat.
Okay.
Perfect. We'll just start at lunch.
Right.
Any other questions about that agenda?
So the June 7th meeting, we're going to just be the regular time then, 6
Regular time.
o'clock? Okay.
Anything else?
We have to schedule a meeting next week for one of the graduations? Pardon me? We have to schedule a meeting for next week before one of the graduation ceremonies?
We do. I mean, we don't need to make a decision about that tonight. I'm assuming that I may need a closed session from you, and the intent would be, we'll notify obviously in advance, so you'll know, as long as we have a quorum, and I think on Wednesday and Thursday, do we have all of you? No.
Keith's not there on Wednesday.
Okay, so we still have a quorum, but we'll notify you in advance to potentially make, some personnel decisions on either Wednesday or Thursday prior to our graduation ceremony. We did that last year, so that's not a foreign idea to us.
And what time do we need to be at Chaffetz?
4:30.
That's the upcoming things we have to talk about.
sorry. Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Yes, so what time do we have to be at Chaffetz?
There's a note inside where your gowns, there's a sheet that tells all the different nights who's graduating, the directions to get there, what time you need to be there, and all the parking passes.
You were so good to us, Jane.
Yes.
This thing right here.
So if there's a problem, though, with your gowns
Says
or
arrive by
anything,
6:30.
you need to let me know, and then Larry Glennon will take care of any problems.
There'll be food left at 6:30.
All right, so upcoming events, obviously, we have all the graduations next week. There's also a lot going on in schools with field days and little graduations here and there. Then again, of course, we have the Leadership Summit, the conference in September, and the National School Board Conference. So anything else with calendar? By the way, it does say, please check the Board of Educational Google Calendar. That's a nice touch. Do you have something to add?
I did want to mention that, in this, don't worry, this won't take a long conversation, but we were just looking at the calendar regarding our tax rate hearing in September, and I really just would ask for a nod, and we'll just go ahead and put that on the calendar for September the 27th. We always want that the latest we can get it in August, and we've had a conflict in the past. We don't have that conflict this year.
Well, that's the first night of the MSBA conference.
So we have that conflict with the MSBA conference.
Yeah.
Especially,
I thought we avoided that.
No, that's why it's on your notes.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk about it.
especially because, right, we're going to have to present
Yes.
at that conference since we won the board award.
But that doesn't mean, I would still recommend that we consider that the tax rate hearing. The latest we can make it in September, the better off we're going to be. I know Paul would concur with that. And people could still go to the conference the next morning. Or do a late
And the
night
tax
trip.
hearing is usually like right at 6, and it's
That's
only a
true.
few minutes.
Remember,
so-
our tax rate hearing in Rockwood is usually really quick and not attended.
Okay, anything else on that? All right, how about we adjourn? Wait, do I need a motion for adjournment? Yes. Oh, yeah, take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Third, fourth,
Say aye.
sixth,
Aye.
seventh.
All right.
You don't-
Good night.